Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show, Tapping into Your Heart. And this is where you can learn more about how to navigate through pet loss grief, especially during the holidays. And my name is Berns Galang, your host for the show. I'm actually an artist, an illustrator, and I specialize in drawing animals. And I just decided to put together this event because I'm also coping with my own pet loss grief alongside you. And I'd like to help in any way I can. Yeah, especially now since Christmas is almost already here and New Year's fast approaching. So particularly heavier for us during these seasons. So if you have spent time with an animal companion and love them, I think this is for you. And with us today is our guest speaker, Beth Bigler of Honoring Our Animal. She's a certified grief counselor and pet loss grief support specialist. So, without further ado, let's welcome our guest. Hi, Beth.
Hi, Berns, and hello, everybody watching. Thank you for spending some time with us today. I hope this is affirming and supportive for wherever you are in your pet loss grief journey.
Yes, and I'm happy you're with us today. So, can you tell us more about yourself and your own journey on how you became a grief counselor?
Absolutely. Well, there's not very many people in the world who woke up one morning and said, I want to make it my life's mission to become a pet loss grief counselor. I haven't met anyone quite like that. And that was certainly not me. I grew up as a writer and a screenwriter, TV writer, producer. I started working when I was 18 years old as a professional in the entertainment industry and had a long and excellent career in film and television development and theater as well. And I was doing all of that when my soulmate cat Arnie, who was only 11 years old at the time, got a really bad prognosis on a cancer. We got about a 30-day prognosis rather. It was right before Christmas, so that's always a big time for me as well. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to begin to imagine a world where he wouldn't be, and I didn't understand what life would be like without him. And I certainly didn't know how to help him have a good death. And so I immediately thought, I need help. I need professional help. And so I actually sought out my own pet loss grief support person who was fabulous. And I started working with her. And immediately I started working with her. And I felt like, okay, wow, I can do this. I can show up for him and I can get him to his good death and I can survive this, right?
Mhm.
And so that was my first exposure to pet loss grief work. And I found it to be the most transformative, empowering, and supportive kind of therapeutic work I had ever done in my whole life.
Wow.
So I ended up simultaneously putting up a big medical fight for Arnie, and we tried kind of an experimental chemo that no one was sure would be effective or would work because, as a lot of you listening know, cancer and small animals, we don't have a lot of research, we don't have a lot of guarantees, and we happened to get very lucky, and we got a remission on his cancer, and that was a thrill and very unexpected. And even after we got that remission, I kept working on my pet loss grief work because I was so profoundly changed by the work I had done so far. And I wanted to understand my relationship better and understand what this grief experience might mean for me and for my future. So I actually did a lot of that work on and off for about a year. And almost exactly a year after his first diagnosis, we did our 1-year checkup. We had a clean blood work panel. We had a clean ultrasound. We were celebrating. And a few days after that, he wet the bed when he was laying in bed next to me and he didn't move. And it was very unusual for him. And we took him to the vet right away and got him on fluids, admitted him. He went downhill very quickly. And 4 days later, he was dead from a different type of cancer that developed very quickly and overtook his whole body. And there was nothing we could do. There was no fight for us to make. I just had to walk that road with him to the very end. And I was grateful that I had done all that anticipatory work before. I felt like I was able to show up for him and be there for him and be strong for him and be kind to myself throughout the process. But it was a devastating loss and it was a
Mhm.
profoundly difficult experience. But I knew I knew that I would have to take this experience and find a way to help others. And so eventually I found a way to extricate my life from my career and from everything I had done so far, and transition into doing this work full time to help other people walk the road. And so that's how I got here. That's my experience.
I can imagine how heartbreaking that was, but it's actually yeah, very transformative at the same time. And that's a massive pivot from your previous career to doing this to help other people. Yeah, and usually it has
Yeah,
that a journey like that comes around when usually when a pet is involved and animal companions involved, and they just transforms our lives into something seemingly heartbreaking and really heavy and hard, but there's something really beautiful underneath it. And yeah, so inspiring that you had what you had to go through with Arnie, and yeah, that's very beautiful actually.
yeah, there I had an experience. About 6 months into his original diagnosis, we were at his emergency vet. Well, it was oncologist, but it's like an emergency vet clinic as well.
Mhm.
And we were there for a regular checkup. And I was in the waiting room, and there was a woman next to me, and she was alone, and she didn't have an animal with her. And we were sitting there just waiting. She was waiting, and I was waiting, and there's a dog across from us with a couple, and the dog had a seizure, and that was very frightening to see. I hadn't seen that before. And the vet techs came and they took the dog. And as soon as it happened, this woman next to me just burst into tears. And, it was just the two of us. So I went over and I sat beside her and actually took her hand. And I said, what brings you in today? And she shared with me that her cat, who was only 3 years old, a beautiful Russian blue cat, who was just the kind of cat I had growing up, the cat had ingested some lily water, and lilies are very toxic to cats. And the veterinarians were saying that they were probably going to have to euthanize the cat because of the damage to the cat's organs. And there was a moment there where I just felt like I knew what to do. I knew how to help her. I felt sort of overtaken by something bigger than me. That's the only way I can describe it. And I listened to her. I comforted her. I ended up staying with her. I stayed with her the whole day. I stayed with her through the euthanasia. I made sure she got home okay. And she was very grateful. And I knew in that moment that something was going to change for me. And I remember walking outside. It was dark it had been a very long day. My husband had come to take Arnie home. So Arnie didn't stay for all of this. My husband took Arnie home and I stayed. And I remember walking out and it was dark. And I remember I looked up at the sky and I was like, something has changed for me today. And I remember I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to make this transition. I don't know how I'm going to find a way to do this in my life. But I knew that day that I was going to have to do the work. And Arnie was still alive. That was even before we had his very unexpected death. So I definitely had a moment in the middle of this that things became very clear about my direction.
Wow, that's definitely a clear sign. Yeah, and it's exactly what the girl needed at the time. That was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then now that you're doing counseling and yeah, for pet loss grievers, and how would you describe your approach or your counseling style?
That's a great question. This type of work is grief counseling, right? It's not therapy. And
Mm.
there are some sort of differences between those two things, at least in my approach. One of the things is with therapy, it can be very long term. It can be very, you can be in therapy for years and years. And this is very different because it tends to be quite short term. So I work with people in general 3, 4, 5, 6 months, getting them through the kind of acute part of their grief. And my mission is to sort of get rid of people. I love working with them, but I really want to help people adjust to this tremendous loss and find tools to regain a sense of kind of a, a sense of an everyday life that doesn't feel so empty and so absent. And so I really love being very hands-on, very directive. I do give people a lot of things to do. I give a lot of homework assignments. I give a lot of writing assignments and reading assignments. And I ask my clients, when I have my initial consultation, I really ask them, like, are you ready to sort of step up and participate? in your grief work, right? Because of course, you can not do grief counseling and move through your grief and adjust and, find joy and meaning again in your life. You certainly don't need grief counseling to do that. But having somebody like me in your corner, cheering you on, giving you ideas, giving you tools, giving you strategies, and then really implementing those and then coming up with your own is so empowering. Most people say to me, I don't know what to do. And that is real because in our culture today, so many of us don't have a lot of experience with grief and death. And if we do, we haven't had models from the families that we grew up in about how do we grieve? How do we mourn? How do we keep connected to our loved ones, even though they're not earthside? So many people I work with are just like, I'm feeling this loss worse than any other human loss. I feel like I'm, overreacting and people are saying I'm making too much of it and I don't know what to do with myself. And one of the things in my approach is that I'm going to give you a lot of things to do and try. And grief is mysterious and funky. I don't know exactly what's going to feel most supportive to someone when I start working with them because we're all so individual and our needs are so individual. But as soon as I get to working with people and we start sort of experimenting and trying things, immediately, my clients find things that feel supportive and that feel nurturing and comforting, and they start to be able to do them and create them on their own and keep their connections alive and move through their guilt and move through their shock and move through their anxiety and sadness and just feel very empowered. So I would say my approach is, validating, compassionate, and also directive, right? I am here to give you the best of everything I've got. I'm like Mary Poppins with that bag of tricks. I got all kinds of things in here. I'm going to try. Some of it's going to be very practical. Some of it's going to be very, nuts and bolts kind of stuff. And some of it might be kind of woo woo and weird. And that's okay. We got to try everything because we don't know what feels supportive until we actually start trying things. So, I say, if you want to come work with me, I'm going to give you the best of what I got. And I expect you to try some of it. It's like a buffet. I want you to try everything, see what you like. And then, we'll go from there and build on that.
Yeah, I love your creativity and how you approach things. That's a very much customized, or yeah, it's actually very emphatic that you really see through the what everyone needs because everyone is different. And I've actually been in one of your lives, and it's really very helpful. I really find it very insightful. And yeah, gosh, in one of those lives, I also got a sign, and that was the time when a butterfly flew inside my room, and gosh, it was good. I was able to take a video of it, and it was a pet memorial, and gosh, it really felt like a sign from my pets. Yeah, I think it's a white butterfly, and I don't know how it got in. Although I leave my windows open, but it was a rainy day, and it was so unlikely that a butterfly would fly inside my room at the time. So yeah, that's one of them, and that's a good transition. And I know how creative you are. I've seen your Instagram, and I follow you. I've been following you for quite some time now, and which makes me think, what are the best ways to memorialize an animal who has crossed over?
It's a great question. And there's not one perfect answer, right? Just like grief is not one size fits all. I'm a big believer in we memorialize our animals through the types of things that we value and that we feel connected to and that matter to us, as people, right? So what might make me feel very supported in memorializing is not necessarily what's going to make you feel supported. So I don't believe there's like one perfect way, but in terms of the memorial piece of it, I love doing things with writing. I love encouraging my clients to write, even if you don't feel like you're a great writer, who cares, right? So I really love to encourage writing about your memories, writing to your beloved, writing things that you don't want to forget. Many people struggle like, oh, I'm so worried I'm going to forget things. I'm like, well, write it down. I encourage everyone, I brought a couple props, Berns. I encourage everyone to like have a journal, have a dedicated space. This is my personal journal for Arnie. So on the front, I have pictures of of us together and some
Oh,
of my favorite pictures.
oh,
And I have his name on the spine. So when you like see it, it's in there. And this is where I write to him and share with him, talk to him, just anything I want him to hear. And so I believe in writing as a very powerful tool to keep you connected and to celebrate, your animal's life. Other people love music. One of the things I encourage is to make playlists if you love music that remind you of your animal. If your animal didn't have a theme song in life, give him a theme song now. Fill up a playlist and listen to music and think about your animal. I also love doing things in nature, especially with dogs. If you've spent a lot of time in certain places, I love encouraging people to connect with their animals and celebrate their animals in nature. One of my favorite things of all time to do is to do things with rocks. So anything with rocks, I have rocks with me at all times. And rocks are great because you can write on them, you can paint on them. And I love to do things with rocks like this. This says adventure, right? Because I made this for someone who is memorializing a dog, and one of the things it is they went on adventures. So I worked on an event to celebrate that animal's life, and we all brought a stone that made us think of that dog. So also, you can paint rocks. You can leave them in sacred places where you spent with your animal. You can make stones in your garden and have sort of a memorial area in your own outdoor space. If you have that, even if you just have a tiny outdoor space, you can do things with rocks. And I love working with any natural items. Obviously, many people love to make videos and Instagram accounts. You can make an Instagram account even if your animal has died. You can start one now to celebrate and memorialize their life. Photo books, scrapbooks, all of that kind of thing. I love jewelry. I have all kinds of different Arnie jewelry. I'm wearing some jewelry now that reminds me of him. And one of my favorite tips, and I think Berns, you've been around the Instagram, is that I really tell people to talk about having a signature color for your animal. If there is a color that reminds you of your animal, to do it. So orange is Arnie's color. So the couch behind me is orange because of Arnie. Anytime I have a choice about a color in my life to do, I choose orange. That reminds me of him. That keeps his memory with me. I find color to be a very powerful tool. Even things like if you're getting flowers now, just get flowers in the color that reminds you of your animal. So, I think the opportunities for memorializing are vast, and I think we do need to be creative with them and really acknowledge, what fills our cup, right? Like if you love to paint and draw, about your animal. If you love to be by the ocean, what can you paint shells or write on shells and leave shells for your animal. It's truly just kind of looking at what's special to you, what's special to your animal, and then finding ways to keep doing it. I even people laugh at this, is my AirPod case, but on my AirPod case, I don't know, can you see I have a cat and some stars. And
Yeah.
every time I look at it, I think about Arnie, like that's a memorial. So, memorials are everywhere. And I love doing that. One of the things on Instagram that a lot of people have also gotten really into is I suggested that when you go to a coffee shop or, Starbucks where they ask for your name, or anywhere you go where they ask for your name, give them your animal's name. So when your coffee comes up, they yell out, Arnie, coffee for Arnie. I
Oh,
mean, there's no word I know, right? And so a lot of people on my Instagram are always sending me pictures of their animal's name on the coffee cup. And they say, it makes me feel so great to just hear my animal's name shouted out to the world, And that's a small thing, but if you do that once a week when you go get your coffee, you are remembering and memorializing your animal. And for me, I think less about kind of memorializing and more about connecting, keeping that connection open, keeping the relationship with your animal alive and well, and I don't mean in an animal psychic or, afterlife communication kind of way. That's cool if that's your jam, but a lot of people aren't into that. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the energy that exists in the relationship you have with your animal is still happening. So we can keep giving to that. We can keep receiving from it, and we can keep connecting to it. And that is so powerful. And I mean this when I say it, that my relationship with Arnie today is even more evolved, more vibrant, and stronger than it was when he died many years ago. And that's a gift. But it's a gift because I keep connecting and I keep it going and I keep, living the gifts and guidance and lessons and teachings that he taught me. That's also memorializing. We take the gifts that our animal gave us and we live them. And that's the way that we keep their legacy moving forward. Also, if anyone is expecting a baby, I named my son's middle name after Arnie. His middle name is Arnold. So you can also do that option as well. That's one way to really keep your animal in your family.
Yes, very much. And I love that you mentioned something about connection. I think that's the key there. That's why there's so many ways to memorialize an animal companion and cross over, because it's really the connection that's really at the root of it all. And like for me, for instance, I don't know, I'm an artist. I'm into drawing, so I made a drawing of one of my cats who crossed over. It's actually over there. It's printed. It's actually in a digital form, but I printed it out over there. I think I have one over here. But
Yeah, let's see
yeah.
it.
I can find it.
It's there.
Yeah, it's just right here. I wanted to show it in my iPad, but it's too bright if it's from my iPad. So yeah, I haven't printed out like this. So,
Oh, that is gorgeous. Can you read us the words?
yeah. Oh my God, I might cry. Okay, above is there's a place in the here and now where our hearts align ever so perfectly. And below
Mhm.
it, I long for those moments. And for you, I go there over and over again. So this is almost like a download. I woke up in the middle of the night and I had this idea to yeah, immediately I took my iPad. Actually, the first thing that came were the words. I wrote them down, which is not usual for me because I usually just start drawing and start sketching roughly and then go from there. And then after those words, yeah, that's when I started drawing the image that I saw. It was almost like somewhere in the middle of a dream or and what's real. I couldn't tell exactly if I was dreaming, but it was downloaded. I didn't
Yep.
conjure that image deliberately. It just came.
Just came. What a gift.
Yeah. And yeah, I want to do more of those.
I
As
hope you do. I think so many people need to see those. More, please.
oh yeah, that's gonna take a lot of energy though, but I'm willing. I would love that. And yeah,
Awesome.
moving on. Yeah, what advice can you give to pet parents or pet guardians and how to care for themselves after the loss of an animal companion?
Hmm. Uh, I wish I had magic words about this, It is such a difficult thing to go through. And I work with many people who are experiencing anticipatory grief, people who know that their animal is ending their life or nearing completion of their life. And I also work with many people post loss. And while those circumstances are different and the grief is slightly different in those circumstances, I would give the same basic tenets for both. The number one thing that I wish for all animal companion grievers is self-compassion.
Mhm.
I would tell anyone to be kind to themselves. We tend to be very critical of ourselves. We tend to be very hard on ourselves. We experience a lot of guilt, a lot of regret, and we tend to be mean to ourselves about this. So, my first request and guidance for any griever is to just be very kind, nurturing, patient, and loving to yourself. That's the way your animal was with you. You know what that feels like. You know how to do it, and you've got to really dig deep and bring that to yourself. And when you catch yourself being unkind to yourself or saying something mean to yourself or saying something you'd never say to a friend, try to catch yourself and reframe it. So that's self-compassion, I think, is the number one thing I wish I could give anyone who's going through this. And then there's some basics. I mean, it depends where you are in your grief journey. In the very beginning, there are many physical symptoms. People have physical, heart palpitations and problem sleeping and headaches and stomach upset. And that's very real and very unexpected for people. And so I always like to say to people, be very kind to your body, rest, nourish, and hydrate. Those are very important things as we go. I think many people think, well, I'll take a day off work and then I'll be back at it. And the truth is, a lot of the physical symptoms, and even like in your brain, there's something called grief brain that, you feel a little disoriented, you feel a little foggy, you might not be making decisions as effectively. And so to really just bring in awareness to your body, and to be kind and nurturing, and to treat yourself, as if you're sick. I mean, it's almost like if you have the flu or something, you want to be very kind and nurturing to your physical body as well. And as time goes on, of course, to just, express your grief. Now, a lot of people don't feel comfortable or safe expressing their grief to those around them, talking about their experience. So find safe people.
Mhm.
Find even one person who feels like they get it. And that's why so many people come to me and come to my Instagram, because they find a whole community of people who really get it and who are there for each other. And so no matter where you find that community, whether it's online or in your family or with your coworkers, talk about your grief, talk about your animal, share stories, be honest when people ask you how you're doing. And if somebody says to you, what can I do to help? Or let me know what you need. Be ready to ask for something. Be ready to say, "Oh, could you bring me dinner? I just don't feel like cooking." Or could you take me for a walk in the park? And I don't even really feel like talking, but I just want to be out in the world and next to somebody. You can't assume people are going to know how to help you. You can't. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And it's not even because people don't love you. It's just that they don't have the tools either. Just like you don't have the tools to figure out how to support yourself, no one else has the tools to figure out how to support you. So we have to kind of advocate for ourselves and really think about, okay, what would feel supportive? And then we've got to, muster the courage to ask for it, because many of us do have people that want to help us, but we are afraid to ask for help. So I also would like to encourage grievers to ask for support, to ask for help, to ask for what you need, even if you're not quite sure. One of the best things you can say to anyone is, could you please check in with me on a text once a week and just ask me how I'm doing, and use my animal's name in a sentence, or ask me to share a memory or a photo? And could you put that on repeat in your calendar for the next year, or every month for the next year? Because when something like this happens, even with humans, a lot of people at first are very supportive, but a month later or 2 months later or 3 months later, nobody's asking anymore. It feels like no one cares. So really asking people to follow up 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road. Could you check in at Christmas? Could you check in on my birthday? Right? That will give you a continued feeling of support. And if there's anything I want in the world, is I want pet loss grievers to feel supported and validated and empowered. And so part of that, means stepping up ourselves and asking for that support as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for breaking that down for us. And yeah, I believe that's going to help a lot of pet grievers, especially during the holidays. And is there anything else that you would like to share? That anything that we haven't covered?
Oh my goodness, so many things. I mean, I would really just like to validate anybody who's listening. If you're feeling like you're, having this huge reaction, or that you're, a lot of people say I'm quote going crazy, or that you don't understand why you just can't get it together and move on. I just really would like to validate that your experience, you are not alone in this experience. This type of loss is profound, it's deep, it affects every part of our daily routine. And in some ways that makes it more difficult than certain human losses. And so I guess one thing I just want to really validate is to say, if you are having a difficult time, if you're crying every day, if it's been a year and you still yearn for and long for your animal, that's perfectly typical, common, and absolutely okay. And so you are not alone in that. And if you do feel like you need support, reach out to me, reach out to any mental health professional, get some support. But also just know that this kind of loss takes a long time to adjust to and integrate into your life. And it may take a while, and that's okay. Go at your own pace, grieve at your own pace. There are no rules.
Yeah, and especially pet loss grief, it's a different kind of grief, and most of the time it's considered disenfranchised. So
Yes.
yeah, a lot of pet grievers really experience isolation, and support is really very much needed. So
Yes.
yeah, and you have great content, and especially in Instagram, and then I saw your website as well. So where can people find you or reach out to you so they can get some resources and the help that they need? All right.
Absolutely. Well, I do invite everybody to hop on over to my Instagram. I'm very active there. That's at Honoring Our Animals. Please come over to Insta. We have all kinds of things happening there. We have a great community. Every month, I offer a memorial service live to honor our animals. And I do a request for names a few days in advance. You can submit your name and your animal's name, and I read the names and I write a new service every month. And it's a beautiful way to come together as a community to connect and celebrate and truly feel part of our community as we honor all of our animals. So I would love to invite anyone to come for the memorial service, come for the content, connect in the comments. And if you are looking for some one-on-one support from me, I offer consultations, free consultations, so that we can talk and get to know each other and see if it might be a good fit. You're welcome to go to my website, which is honoringouranimals.com, to learn more about how the grief counseling works, or you can DM me on Instagram, either way, and we can set up a time to chat.
Wonderful. All right. And I'll also put the links in our website and our emails and the description boxes. So yeah, thank you so much, Beth, for sharing your heart with us and making time for this. We had a wonderful conversation today. And
Sure thing.
you guys in the audience, I hope this show has provided value and meaning for you. And I really hope this will also help you navigate through pet grief, especially during this season. And thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, much love. Thank you, Beth. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.
Bye.